just barely got in. I don't know if the ammo's out of spec or if I just clean the gun. Alright, welcome back guys. Today we are going to be talking about this optic right here. This is made by Siley Optics and it is their Ghost HDG. And this is made for an RMR footprint. So I'll go ahead and go over the features now and then I'll show you what's in the box and then we'll talk about my actual experience. So here you can read kind of all the little features it has. It has your standard RMR footprint. It has daylight night vision modes. I did not test out the night vision mode, although this would be a decent option because it is so durable, so maybe I'll get around to that at some point. The battery life is pretty much the same as everybody else out there. It's got 50,000 hours up to, quote unquote, that's, you know, on the lowest setting most likely. It does have an auto shut off. After 5 minutes it'll turn off, and it has an auto shut off, or an auto, you know, it'll turn itself on basically after whenever you move it, and it'll turn itself off after 5 minutes. It does have 3 reticle options, so it has a 2 MOA dot, which I do like. Sorry, I keep bumping the camera. It has this circle, which is, in my opinion, useless, and then it has this circle dot here, which also, for the most part, is useless. So, I do like the fact it has 1 MOA adjustments, and it is a drop-proof design. It's fully submersible. I did test this. It actually, you know, I submerged it, and it did just fine. All right, and I did drop this thing directly on concrete. Let me take this off. Whoop, magic. Yeah, I didn't tighten it down for this review. So as you can see, it took a pretty good solid beating right there whenever I dropped it directly onto concrete, and nothing happened. All right, and so you can see the Ghost, it got hit right on the top, and as I expected, no crack because this took the force, which directed down to the body. The lens didn't get, you know, touched at all. So that one's fine. Now, did I have this mounted on a gun? No. Did I have it mounted on a rifle? No. But I think it probably would handle everything just fine because, as you can see, these little rings right here stick up substantially compared to the actual body itself. And these things are built into the body housing, and the glass is not attached to these at all. Sorry, it would help if I keep it in frame. Let me get behind the camera a little bit better. So, as you can tell, it's a very chunky boy, especially for a pistol-mounted optic. But, I mean, it is probably the most durable optic I've seen, at least when it comes to design. It does have a battery tray that kind of pops out the side, and it's got a little screw. It is, you know, again, waterproof. The detents on here are very tactile and audible. They hold 0 just fine. You got your up and your down feature right here. So something like this, whenever I first saw it, I thought that thing is almost the size of an actual red dot for a rifle. And I was right. It is. It's quite large. But if you're looking for something that's durable, this might be your ticket. Now, the price for this thing, if I remember correctly, again, I'm going off memory here, I want to say it was around $250 or so, which is kind of pricey for something that's made by, you know, basically like an Amazon company, more or less. But it is a very durable optic, and it gives you just a massive window to look through. So I didn't think I would be a fan of this thing initially, but I wanted to just see how durable it was, and I wasn't actually even going to make a review on this optic specifically. I was just going to see how much more durable it was than these over here. And I've dropped all these on concrete too, and then that one broke, and that one broke whenever I froze them. And I think the Gobutar and then this one were the only two to actually survive the durability test, which I might be releasing before or after this video. I don't know. So maybe just, you know, spoiler alert. But part of that is because it does have a glass lens on the inside of here that is not distorting the dot at all. It might look distorted to you. Sorry, that's just camera work. But that glass on some other optics over there especially whenever it got scratched up, will kind of distort the dot and make it not crisp and clear. This has probably the crispest, if that's a word, you know, most clear reticle I've ever used on something other than like a Holosun, or like that Gobutar actually is pretty decent as well. But say something like this Olight, the dot on this Olight is not nearly as crisp, at least in my opinion, as this one. So if you're going to spend around $200, considering that this feature right here, the little light sensor, basically doesn't work, I actually like this one better. Now, this one looks better on a pistol. This one's just kind of goofy looking on a pistol, but, you know, kind of get what you pay for. So, all that aside, they did actually send this. Sorry, I forgot to disclose that at the beginning. They sent me this optic for free. I told them, well, I'm going to do a durability test, so I'll try to destroy it if you're cool with that. And they said, okay, send it out to me. So, you know, kudos to them. Thanks to them for sending one out for me to destroy. Now, all that said, I initially had some issues with this, and I'll go over that now. So if you're familiar with me testing all these budget optics, you'll know that on this Zev Cut RMR slide, you put it on here, and I'm not going to bother tightening anything down, but you can see there's wiggle. And that wiggle is because these posts are slightly smaller, I believe, than a traditional RMR post, which this right here is your traditional RMR cut. You know, it has these posts up front, not posts back here. And that's because, as you can see, these little holes right here, you know, would co-align with these little silver posts, and that fits in there. So that's your traditional. And on this thing, let me take out these screws because it doesn't do any good. Sorry, I'm afraid of losing screws, and they're apparently valuable these days because no one includes good screws. So if you put this on here, you can see, sorry, doing this behind the camera, so bear with me. Where's it at? There it is. Okay. So if you put it on there, there's basically no wiggle. Now, and you actually have to kind of pull to get it apart. So if you put it on a traditional RMR cut slide, this won't be an issue for you because, again, this does not move. And the turrets hold 0 even under recoil. And whenever I bash this thing against the wood table, it only lost 0 because the mounting system was not as stable as this was, because the mounting system on there, again, you had more wiggle left and right. I would like for them to make this hole right here just a smidgen smaller to be the same diameter as these holes. Because, for instance, this Nightwing, again, I've probably showed this in a bunch of different videos, these holes are actually the same as these, which means you can hear it clicking, but it's basically not moving at all. So that's what this should be. And I apologize, you're getting lots of edits in this video, my bad. I did mention earlier that the post holes right here where the screws go in, those holes are still too large, so again, you get some wiggle, but the screws that they came with are actually long enough. So I misspoke. I've been reviewing like 5 different things in the process, so sorry, I got that wrong. I remounted it on here just to verify, and sure enough, the screws get like 2 or 3 full rotations, which is perfect. So that means that the screws themselves weren't the problem. It was actually the holes that the screws go into being too large for the post on this Zev slide. So again, sorry if I misspoke. The screws are perfectly fine. It's just, you know, the tolerances obviously for those posts and holes were the issue. It also does come with like 80,000 sets of screws. So for whatever your slide cut is, it's going to have screws that fit. Now, because of that, I got 0 shift on this slide, you know, with this optic. And again, it's because the screws can't really do everything alone. The posts themselves, or if they were up here, are really what's keeping this thing from moving. So until they make this hole smaller, I cannot suggest you buy this for a slide that has the Zev ZEV style RMR cut slides. If you have a traditional RMR cut slides, this will be perfectly adequate. So if you're wanting to use this for competition or something like that, or you know, you just want a beater gun, like this would be a great choice because it is a really large window and it's very durable. So what I plan on doing this is actually putting this on my MP5 because I think it would look good on my MP5. I like that kind of round optic look. So I did put this on a rifle to, again, confirm that my suspicions were with the mounting solutions and the screws. And sure enough, whenever I mounted this on an AR-15, I zeroed it, you know, beat it a bunch, and then put it back and, you know, shot it again. And sure enough, it held 0 perfectly fine. So if you mount it on a traditional RMR using these posts, or if for whatever reason your Zev cut slide has just fatter posts than mine does, then it'll probably be fine. But as long as it doesn't wiggle back and forth before you put the screws on there, you're going to be fine. All right, so the reason why I say the circle dot is worthless is because on this optic, the circle is a 26 MOA circle, and then there's a 2 MOA dot on the inside of it. Now, if you're familiar with this one over here, so this Gogutar, well, it's completely, yeah, you're not going to be able to see it, but you can see how much larger that is. That's actually a circle and a dot. You just can't see it. This one, I believe, is like 60 MOA or something like that. So this one's actually usable. It reminds me of an EOTech whenever you're aiming through an EOTech on a rifle. This basically looks almost identical to that, just on your pistol. So the dot is very large and has enough room where you can see in between the circle and the dot itself, so it doesn't cover up your target. This one completely covers up your target. It might as well be a 26 MOA dot because it's just massive. You can't see through it at all, so all it does is block your target. So you're not gonna be able to use this on a rifle or anything like that. You might be able to get away with just the ring, maybe on something like a shotgun, but again, because this circle is so tiny, all it does is block your view. So Siley, you need to make it to where this ring on here, again, this right here, needs to be at least 60 MOA size-wise. It's going to kill battery life, I understand that, but 26 MOA is too tiny. It's not usable at all. This needs to be at least 60 MOA, preferably a little bit bigger, in order for that to be usable. So in reality, this optic is only usable with the 2 MOA dot.
All right, maybe this will give you a better idea. But here is the circle dot over here, and it's like a 28 MOA circle. So as you look through here, and it doesn't look much better to my eye, but you can't see pretty much anything inside that circle. Versus on this one, this is the GoWutar, it's like a 60 MOA circle, maybe it's like 58 or something like that, but it's close to 60. It actually allows you to see in between the dot and the ring itself. Versus this is basically just one big giant, 28 MOA dot. Versus this is actually usable. And under night vision, I actually really like this optic over here. It allows you to see really well, and it just makes things faster aiming wise. This one, I haven't tried it under night vision, but I imagine that would just look like one big dot. So again, this is what I prefer, around a 60, preferably even bigger MOA circle, like maybe a 70 would probably be even better. This one is just too small to be usable in my opinion. Alright, here again is the Ghost. You're going to rack it against here a bunch of times. Right. 15 times. We'll see if it holds zero. Alright, so after doing that, I can visibly see the dot has moved in relation to the iron sights. With this, I'm using the EOTech style reticle on the Wolf. So I was able to get a group like this. That one was me. I know that one was me. So once I just used a solid dot, it stayed here. So I was like, well, maybe it was just me being dumb, not using reticle, which I don't like that reticle. It's too small and it kind of covers up the entire target, and that is the reason why I don't like it. So then I used a dot again, thinking, okay, well maybe it was just me messing up. Then I moved it over here, and then my group shifted low. And that one was actually me. These were all not. You can see I stacked on top of each other. So obviously I like a solid dot better because it doesn't cover up the entire reticle, and so I get a more precise aiming point. But it's still shifting. My hold was this center, and my hold was the center, and it shifted low again. So I think the internals, the turrets, are probably fine. It seems like the detents are holding. If they weren't, this would just be wild all over the place. So what I suspect is the screws, or the entire optic itself, is just ever so slightly shifting on the slide. Not obviously a lot, but enough. So if they could fix that tolerance issue and get rid of that, slop whenever it's mounted on there before you put the screws on, I think that would probably solve this problem. You can probably see the red. There's a red glow on that one right there. There's a red glow on, I think, 3 of them, if I remember right. Let me try and see if you can see it the other way. I can tell there's at least 3 of them that are still working, but yeah, you can see a little bit of red.
So it all comes down to what I recommend you buy this. I actually, and it kind of hurts me a little bit to say this, but I would actually recommend this for duty if you have a traditional RMR cut slide and there's no wiggle or slop, again, before you put the screws on. So I find myself not recommending Amazon optics a lot for duty use, but this is the first one that I actually would recommend if you want to use it for serious use. Now that said, it's it's chunky. Again, put it on here so you can just kind of see how massive this thing is, and you are going to need some aftermarket sights, because while this is almost usable, you'll need some type of metal sights. And if you have metal sights, and again, this is with a direct mount and not with an adapter plate. If you have an adapter plate, you're gonna obviously need taller sights. But if you have standard, like say TrueGlow metal night sights or something similar that are just slightly taller than these Glock sights, you won't need suppressor height sights. But as you can see, this thing is a little chunky, but it does just give you a really large window. And I found myself really liking the circle, because I'm used to it. Like on most, red dot sights have a circle. Now my EOTech, kind of squared, but I actually found that the circle is, I don't know, it's just easier on my brain than something, for instance, like this. This is I don't know, that's just not a that's not a shape that's conducive to, you know, just easy aiming and, you know, kind of makes you happy. It's one of the reasons why the M1 Garand and the AR-15 having just an aperture sight in the zero, or with a ring, a ghost ring in the back, is so popular. It's because your eyes are just naturally drawn to the center of circles, which helps you, you know, kind of find the dot on that. So again, if you're looking for something and this fits that bill, I would give this one, you know, hey, a thumbs up. For the price, it's a little pricey again, but you're getting something that's probably one of the more durable options on the market. And again, I think this would be a really good option if you want something like, say, this LPVO, and you want to mount a red dot on top of it, and you're worried because, again, if you mount a red dot on top of this thing, you know, like right here, well, if you drop this optic or your entire rifle, all the weight of your rifle and your optic and everything is going directly on this red dot if you have it mounted on top of here. So if you're going to mount a red dot on top of an LPVO, I would highly suggest getting this one specifically. You can get an RMR or something like that if you're made of cash, but, you know, for around $250 or so, you can get this, and this will 100% hold up to that weight of the rifle falling on top of it. So again, this was kind of a unique video, or a unique red dot, because I haven't really seen anything like this. So that's kind of an interesting design choice, but again, you can kind of see, you know, why they went with that, because it does actually serve a purpose. But anyways, so if you appreciate this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot. YouTube, again, doesn't really like gun content, so liking, subscribing, sharing this video is really what's going to help out the most. I appreciate you all watching, and have a good one.